So Prince William and Princess Catherine have officially broken their silence. And the reason Camilla was essentially kicked out of Windsor Lodge is way more explosive than anyone was expecting. The core of it, according to the reporting, isn't just a family squabble over who gets which house. It's an allegation that Camilla unilaterally seized the historic villa, fired loyal staff who had been there for decades, and then heartlessly tossed priceless memorabilia belonging to the late Queen and Princess Diana into a damp, dark basement. And that's just the opening act. The climax came when William allegedly gathered ironclad evidence proving Camilla had siphoned millions of pounds of royal funds to finance these garish gold-plated renovations, all in an attempt to basically erase any trace of her predecessors. So, that's where it gets weird. Because if you're trying to secure your position as queen, systematically desecrating the memory of the most beloved figures in modern royal history is a wild strategy. Before we get into the messy details of how this all reportedly went down, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button for our channel. It really helps us keep bringing you these breakdowns. Alright, let's get into it. Nestled behind the ancient oak groves of Windsor Great Park, Windsor Lodge has always been the symbol of warmth and peace for the House of Windsor. It's where the late Queen Elizabeth had her serene weekend getaways, and it preserves some of the most private keepsakes of the late Princess Diana. So, the emotional stakes for this particular property are incredibly high. Now, according to the story, on this gloomy afternoon, Catherine steps down from the family car, and she's standing in front of these majestic iron gates, but something is immediately wrong. The gates, which apparently always stood wide open, are now barred with these thick, dull gray chains and a massive steel padlock. Honestly, that detail alone is so aggressive. You don't just casually padlock a royal residence unless you're trying to send a very specific message. But it gets more concerning. Standing guard on either side of the gates are not the familiar royal guards in their red tunics. Instead, it's four towering, unfamiliar men clad entirely in black uniforms. These are allegedly private guards personally hired by Queen Camilla from an external security firm completely outside the palace system. When they see Catherine, they don't offer a polite bow like protocol dictates. They block the entrance with stony faces, their hands resting on their tactical belts, and they glare at the Princess of Wales with what's described as weariness and hostility. Like she's an intruder trying to infiltrate a military base. Like if that's true, then this makes no sense from a chain of command standpoint. Catherine is the future queen. To have private security treating her like a threat on royal property is a fundamental breakdown of the palace hierarchy. Then Catherine spots Mary, the elderly maid who dedicated over 30 years of her life to serving the late queen, shivering in a thin cardigan outside the gates. She's clutching a small cardboard box of her belongings. Beside her is Arthur, the aging gardener who hand-tended the white roses beloved by Princess Diana. Their faces show profound humiliation. Catherine rushes over, and Mary, choked with tears, recounts how Camilla ordered the sudden overnight mass firing of all the royal staff from the previous generation. The only reason given was that Camilla wanted to cleanse Windsor Lodge of the prying eyes of the past and transform it into a sealed fortress she could manipulate without any outside scrutiny. I don't really understand the logic of firing a gardener who tends Diana's roses unless the goal is specifically to erase the memory. That's not a security decision. That's a deeply personal one. So Catherine, armed with a totally justified fury, turns and marches straight toward the iron gates. With the natural authority of a princess, she demands the private guards open them immediately. The men in black exchange uneasy glances, and faced with her sharp resolve, the group leader is forced to retrieve the key and unlock the chains. Catherine enters the main hall, and instantly she's suffocated by what's been done to the home's historic architecture. Camilla had apparently treated the estate as her personal property, squandering astronomical amounts of royal funds on garish renovations. The centuries-old oak paneling, etched with hand-drawn sketches of past princes, is now covered in a cheap, blinding layer of gold-plated paint. The exquisitely hand-woven silk carpets are replaced with ostentatious bright red rugs. The whole space is turned into what's described as a vulgar display of snobbish wealth. When you actually look at what was said versus what happened, the claim that these were necessary updates falls apart. Gold-plated paint over historic oak isn't preservation, it's defacement. But the worst was yet to come. Catherine walks through room after room and sees absolutely no trace of the priceless heirlooms belonging to the late Queen and Princess Diana. The oil portrait of a young Diana with her radiant smile, which had always held pride of place in the living room, is gone. The late Queen's rosewood vanity table is missing. Catherine's heart is pounding with dread, and she walks down a dark corridor leading to the damp underground storage vaults behind the kitchen. Under the faint beam of her phone's flashlight, she freezes. In a damp, dusty corner draped in cobwebs, the family's sacred heritage is strewn across the floor like discarded rubbish. The late Queen's silver picture frame engraved with the royal crest is dented and buried beneath frayed handwritten diaries. And worst of all, Princess Diana's portrait, which Camilla had ordered taken down, is cast aside on the wet stone floor. The glass face of the frame is split by a long crack and coated in basement grime. Camilla had heartlessly banished these sacred memories to the dark, seeking to completely erase the presence of her predecessors. Catherine kneels on the cold stone floor, her hands trembling as she lifts Diana's portrait. Using the hem of her coat, she gently wipes away the dirt clinging to her late mother-in-law's face. The profound sorrow mixed with absolute fury wells up inside her. She knows she cannot stay silent. Clutching the cracked portrait, she climbs back up the stairs with resolute strides. She bypasses any courtesy and pushes open the grand double doors of the royal tea room on the second floor without knocking. This is the room whose ceiling Camilla had recently gold-leafed, sparkling under imported Italian crystal chandeliers. Inside, Queen Camilla is sitting leisurely on a red velvet armchair embroidered with a large crown, casually sipping Earl Grey tea from an expensive gilded bone china teacup. Surrounding her are three newly hired maids, bowing obsequiously as they offer pastries. Seeing Catherine burst in with a frozen expression and the dusty portrait of Diana, Camilla shows no surprise or dismay. She merely sets her teacup gently onto its saucer, raises her thin eyebrows, and lets out a smug, disdainful half-smile. Catherine skips any hollow pleasantries. She steps forward and slams Diana's portrait onto the marble table directly in front of Camilla. Speaking in a measured but razor-sharp tone, she demands that Camilla provide a proper explanation for the graceless dismissal of Mary and Arthur, as well as the desecration of the family legacy by dumping the keepsakes in a damp basement. Catherine emphasizes that she wishes to resolve this quietly within the family to avoid a massive media scandal. However, in response to this final display of restraint, Camilla exposes her true nature. She stands up slowly, adjusting the thick pearl necklace around her throat, and steps toward Catherine. Her eyes burn with cold envy. Camilla flatly declares that Windsor Lodge is now her private residence, granted with direct management authority from the king. She asserts her right to do whatever she pleases in clearing out obsolete memorabilia that she deems unlucky trash. Sneering at Diana's photo, Camilla remarks that Diana's death occurred decades ago, and those dust-covered pictures belong in the damp basement to make way for her own modern art pieces. That timeline doesn't add up, though. If the authority was granted by the king for her to manage the residence, that management typically doesn't include the destruction or disposal of historic royal artifacts, which are often part of the royal collection trust. You can't just throw out a royal portrait because you personally find it unlucky. Camilla's arrogance crosses every boundary. Ignoring Catherine's warnings, she loudly challenges the young princess's standing, insisting Catherine has no right to lecture a reigning queen on how to manage royal property. To assert her absolute authority, Camilla turns and signals to the two private guards in black standing outside the door. The two muscular men enter the room with absolute no regard for the high status of the Princess of Wales. They roughly grab Catherine's arms and forcibly drag her down the cold stone-paved corridors. Catherine tries to struggle, but the guards are far too strong. They shove her out through the massive iron gates, causing her to lose her footing and nearly fall onto the gravel outside. The violent shove leaves Catherine's wrists severely bruised with angry red-purple marks throbbing in pain. The heavy iron gates slam shut right in front of her under Camilla's smug gaze from the second-floor balcony. The queen believed that by forcibly expelling Catherine she had won an absolute victory, but little did she know the bruises on Catherine's wrists would be the final nail in the coffin of her own reputation. Inside his private study at Adelaide Cottage, Prince William is standing motionless by the window. The soft click of the door opening breaks the silence. Catherine steps in, gently pulling up her sweater sleeve to apply ointment to her wrist. Under the desk lamp, the angry red-purple bruises, distinctly outlining the rough fingers of the private guards, stand out painfully against her pale skin. William turns and sees the injury on his wife's hand. His face instantly hardens, his deep blue eyes narrowing dangerously. He steps over quickly, gently, but firmly taking Catherine's hand. His fingers tremble slightly as they touch her bruised skin. In a voice choked yet steady, Catherine recounts everything: the firing of the loyal staff, the tossing of Diana's portrait into the cellar, and the utter arrogance of ordering guards to forcibly eject her like a common intruder. The rage that flares inside William is not a loud explosion, but a cold, terrifying blue flame. Camilla has crossed the ultimate line. She has not only insulted the memory of his late mother and trampled upon the late queen's sacred legacy, but she has now dared to use physical violence to hurt his wife. William looks directly into Catherine's eyes, his voice dropping low and cold, carrying a suffocating weight. He declares that he will never tolerate anyone, even the queen, overstepping their boundaries and abusing royal property to trample on his family's honor. Yet, as a man of sharp calculation, William knows Camilla is cunning and knows exactly how to hide behind the power of her title. If he relies merely on verbal allegations, or sparks a noisy family row, Camilla will easily play the victim of a stepson's bullying in the media. He needs undeniable ironclad evidence that can strip Camilla of her practical control once and for all. That very night, bypassing any family meetings or tedious administrative procedures, William personally orders the launch of a highly classified undercover investigation. He directly contacts a team of loyal financial auditing experts who had been sidelined by Camilla after she came to power. alongside an independent private detective force entirely separate from the current palace security. A makeshift investigation office is set up in a secret location deep within a private forest owned by William. Their mission is crystal clear and strictly confidential: conduct a comprehensive deep audit of all financial activities, expenditures, and transactions related to the renovations of Windsor Lodge over the past 2 years. Under William's direct command, the financial experts begin dissecting every single transaction, no matter how small. They trace the cash flow siphoned from the Royal Heritage Conservation Fund, a fund strictly earmarked for preserving the historic structures of royal estates. Meanwhile, private detectives quietly monitored the comings and goings at Windsor Lodge, approaching the construction contractors and luxury interior suppliers hired by Camilla to gather intelligence. Queen Camilla remains smugly at ease inside her gilded mansion, believing her power absolute and untouchable. Little does she know, right beneath her feet, William and Catherine have spun an iron net, quietly tightening day by day. With each passing day, the evidence gathered from William's secret audit grows, painting a complete picture of Queen Camilla's abuse of power and insatiable greed. Financial documents and anonymous invoices sent to the secret investigation office exposes shocking truth that goes far beyond the whale's initial suspicions. Catherine sits directly before the computer screens alongside the financial experts to analyze the data files. They discover that Camilla has committed a specific dirty and unethical crime. She has misappropriated a massive amount of royal funds from the family's collective heritage conservation fund. Millions of pounds which should have been used to repair the moss-covered roof tiles and reinforce the deteriorating foundation of Windsor Lodge to protect the historic structure have been arbitrarily diverted by Camilla. She channels these funds into the personal accounts of favored contractors to pay for extravagant, highly personalized renovations. Documents prove that Camilla paid for the installation of solid marble bathtubs imported directly from Italy, the construction of a massive walk-in wardrobe with a gold underfloor heating system, and the replacement of the entire lighting system with pricey crystal chandeliers. All of these heritage-damaging structural alterations are completely unauthorized and in severe violation of the strict residency terms designated for Windsor Lodge. Camilla's greed goes even further. William discovers that she has turned Windsor Lodge into a private resort for her own non-royal family. Surveillance footage gathered by the private detectives shows Camilla's children and grandchildren frequently staying at the lodge for extended periods, freely entering restricted areas, and enjoying luxury royal services without any approval. Meanwhile, the lawful access of William and Catherine, the true heirs of the dynasty, has been violently barred by the private security guards. Crucially, the audit uncovers a highly significant piece of evidence: a secret transaction ledger between Camilla and a prominent construction contractor. The ledger details kickbacks transferred back to the personal account of Camilla's brother after receiving inflated multi-million-pound renovation contracts for Windsor Lodge. This is the ironclad, undeniable proof of embezzlement of royal assets by the reigning queen. All the documents, original invoices, wire transfer slips, and surveillance footage are compiled by William and Catherine into a thick black leather-bound dossier. Every page is flagged with bright red labels ready to serve as the sword of justice that will end Camilla's arrogance. William places his firm hand on the black leather dossier. His eyes flare with ruthless determination. He looks at Catherine and gives a slight nod. The ironclad evidence is ready. Brilliant light cascades from the massive crystal chandeliers in the grand banquet hall of Windsor Lodge, reflecting off the glittering gold-leafed walls that Queen Camilla has just completed. The room hums with lively chatter, the clink of silverware against fine bone china plates, and the rich aromas of lavish dishes prepared by elite chefs. Camilla sits at the head of the long antique oak dining table, draped in a magnificent red velvet gown, a thick glossy pearl necklace gracing her neck. She basks in the flattery of the aristocratic guests and close allies she has invited to celebrate the rejuvenation of the estate. She believes she is now the absolute master of Windsor Lodge. The loyal servants of the late queen have been expelled, and the dusty relics of the past lie buried in the dark cellar. Now this house is the monument to her supreme reign. Camilla raises her glass of red wine, beaming as a guest praises her exquisite taste in home renovation. Pure complacency shows in every wrinkle around the envious eyes of a woman who has spent her life coveting what was never hers. Yet her triumph is short-lived. The heavy wooden doors of the banquet hall are suddenly thrown open from the outside without any announcement from the staff. Prince William and Princess Catherine walk in. The sudden arrival of the Prince and Princess of Wales is like a freezing draft, sweeping through the warm hall, instantly silencing all chatter. The aristocratic guests glance at one another in confusion, feeling an invisible but immense weight settle over the room. William leads the way, his face cold as chiseled ice, his deep blue eyes locked onto Camilla. Catherine walks beside her husband, her long gown sweeping softly against the floor, her regal and proud presence utterly eclipsing the garish display of the reigning queen. Following behind them are not strangers, but the loyal royal guard personally appointed by William. Just before entering the hall, this guard unit has quietly disarmed, restrained, and escorted Camilla's entire private security force in black off the premises of Windsor Lodge without causing any commotion. Now, the crown's true soldiers stand guard at every exit, turning Camilla's banquet hall into a steel trap with no escape. Camilla gasps, the smile freezing on her face. The wine glass in her hand trembles slightly, spilling dark red drops like blood onto the pristine white tablecloth. Yet true to her cunning nature, Camilla quickly composes herself. She slams the wineglass onto the table and stands up, her haughty voice piercing the silence as she demands to know why William and Catherine dare barge into her private party without permission. William makes no reply. He walks with steady strides to the head of the table, standing directly opposite Camilla. Only a wooden table lies between them, yet it is the dividing line of an uncompromising war. William takes the thick black leather dossier from Catherine and throws it onto the table right in front of Camilla. The file splays open, revealing pages of data detailing misappropriated royal funds, fraudulent invoices, and clear detailed evidence of residency violations. William stares directly into Camilla's eyes, his voice deep, clear, and echoing through the cold banquet hall. He delivers a fierce ultimatum. Camilla must sign a document surrendering all management rights of Windsor Lodge and vacate the premises immediately. Should she refuse, this entire dirty dossier, including proof of her collusion with contractors to embezzle the family's shared wealth, will be exposed to the royal family and the public tonight. Camilla's confidence shatters in an instant. She stares down at the highlighted figures and the signatures of contractors confessing to her crimes. The heavily made-up face of the queen drains of color, her lips trembling, rendered speechless by the damning truth laid bare before her closest circle. The air in the banquet hall is now so stifling that one can hear Camilla's shallow, rapid breathing. The aristocratic guests who minutes ago raised toasts to the reigning queen now bow their heads, desperately avoiding William and Catherine's gaze. They realize Camilla has completely lost her footing, and standing with her now is tantamount to social suicide. Yet Camilla is not one to surrender easily. Cornered, her duplicitous nature flares up with savage force. Pointing a trembling finger at William, her voice cracks with rage and terror as she accuses him of plotting to slander her, claiming the documents are fabricated lies cooked up to smear the queen's honor. She turns to the surrounding guests, desperately searching for anyone to defend her, but she is met with a deafening silence. No one dares move or speak a word. Suddenly, Camilla recovers her false bravado. Sneering, she gestures to a trusted attendant standing in the corner. The servant rushes over, handing her a tablet. Camilla holds the screen up for all to see. Displaying a cleverly manipulated surveillance clip, the video shows a figure bearing a striking resemblance to Catherine stealthily unlocking the underground archives of Windsor Lodge and carting away relics. Triumphant, Camilla declares that Catherine herself is the thief who sneaked into the vault to steal jewelry and precious keepsakes to frame her. Whispers break out across the hall. A few of Camilla's loyalists begin to mutter. Camilla throws Catherine a challenging look, believing she has turned the tables with this spectacular plot twist. But Catherine is neither panicked nor flustered. She merely lets out a soft smile, a calm expression carrying absolute contempt for Camilla's desperate flailing. Refusing to engage in a war of words, Catherine pulls out her personal phone and taps a button to override the banquet hall's media system. Instantly, the hall's massive display screen, normally reserved for projecting fine art, begins playing a high-definition video with crystal-clear audio, completely unedited. This is the original footage from a hidden camera that William's investigative team retrieved from Camilla's own internal security system before she could destroy it. Everyone in the dining room holds their breath, eyes glued to the screen. On it, Camilla's sharp features and raspy voice are unmistakable. She is standing in her private quarters barking orders at the private guard captain. Doctor the surveillance video of Catherine's visit this afternoon. Make her look like she's stealing the keepsakes and release it online if she dares open her mouth about my spending at Windsor Lodge. And make sure to shred the original invoices from the contractor. It does not end there. The video cuts to a scene of Camilla and the contractor conspiring to inflate the repair costs for the roof and heating system by threefold, siphoning the family's joint funds into her brother's personal account to pay off his gambling debts. Camilla's voice rings out word for word, shattering any last shred of denial. The mask of the benevolent noble queen crumbles entirely, exposing a greedy, selfish, and deceitful figure who would desecrate the deceased and steal family funds for personal gain. Camilla stands rooted to the spot, her eyes wide with horror at the screen, her mouth agape but incapable of producing a sound. Public humiliation in front of her closest allies is a devastating blow that strikes directly at the core of her pride. The guests begin to quietly stand up. Without a single word of farewell to Camilla, they bow to William and Catherine and quickly flee the banquet hall as if running from an active minefield. Within minutes, the luxurious room is empty of all but three, William, Catherine, and Camilla. The once arrogant queen now looks pathetic, standing trembling amidst the ruins of her own lies, utterly isolated and powerless before divine justice. William glances at his wristwatch, then turns a freezing glare toward Camilla. He announces that she has exactly 2 hours to pack her personal belongings and get out of Windsor Lodge. From this moment on, management of the entire estate officially belongs to the Prince and Princess of Wales under the supreme authority of the family. All of her privileges here are revoked immediately. Camilla sees the absolute, uncompromising lack of mercy in William's eyes. She knows she has lost everything. With no escape route and no allies, she is forced to accept this humiliating defeat. She attempts to beg William, invoking family bonds and the honor of the crown. But William simply turns his back, refusing to look at the woman who has caused so much pain to his family under the strict, cold supervision of the royal guards assigned by William. Camilla is forced to pack her own jewelry and clothes. There are no designer suitcases neatly packed by the hands of maids. Her belongings are hastily shoved into crude cardboard boxes, the exact same type of boxes she had used to discard Diana's keepsakes in the dark cellar. It is a poetic, flawless retribution for her cruel actions. The handover of Windsor Lodge takes place in tense, absolute silence. Camilla drags her suitcase out of the main hall, her expensive red velvet train now sweeping against the dusty path. As she steps out the gates into the freezing drizzle of the Windsor night, she is met with the cold stares of the former servants, like Mary and Arthur, who have been immediately reinstated by William and Catherine. There are no luxury limousines waiting for her. Camilla is forced to climb into a plain black security SUV to leave the estate in utter disgrace. Queen Camilla's control over Windsor Lodge is officially ended forever tonight. As the vehicle carrying Camilla disappears around the bend, the heavy iron gates of Windsor Lodge shut once more, but this time to protect its natural tranquility. William and Catherine turn back inside. Wasting no time, they immediately head down to the dark cellar with their loyal guards to retrieve the keepsakes of the late Queen Elizabeth and Princess Diana. Catherine personally uses a soft silk cloth to carefully wipe away every speck of dust from Diana's portrait and the late Queen's silver frame. With the deepest respect and reverence, she places the radiant portrait of Princess Diana back in its rightful prominent place in the very center of Windsor Lodge's main living room wall. The diaries and other sacred relics are neatly arranged, restoring the soul and warmth to the ancient estate. William stands before his mother's portrait. Under the warm glow of the newly lit candles, Diana's smile seems to warm the once chilly room. He squeezes Catherine's hand, feeling true peace return to Windsor Lodge for the first time in stormy years. They have won a resounding victory, restoring family values and preserving the untarnished legacy of their predecessors. It is an ironclad message to anyone that no power can use greed to trample on the sacred honor and love of the House of Windsor. Honestly, the fact that this all reportedly came down to a secret ledger and a hidden camera is the part that feels the most cinematic. It's not just a disagreement about interior design. It's an entire operation designed to rewrite history and funnel money, and it fell apart the moment someone started tracing the transactions. The real question that lingers, and what the story seems to point toward, is whether Camilla was acting alone or if there's a deeper network that enabled this. The idea that a 1997 secret letter is mentioned as a potential loose end suggests that the battle over Diana's legacy and the control of the royal narrative is far from over. Camilla might just be the tip of the iceberg in a much larger conspiracy within the royal establishment. And if William and Catherine have truly secured this kind of investigative power, this is likely just the first of many secrets to come crashing down.